Today I'm bringing you a video format that's a bit different from what I usually do on the channel, but I swear the story is absolutely worth it and is completely tied to the type of content I usually cover here on the channel. Of course, I really want your feedback, so at the end of the video, let me know what you thought of this video, and if you really liked it, I can bring this type of content to the channel more often. So let's get to the point and dive into today's case. In the month of September in the year 2024, the much anticipated product was officially released to the public, marking a significant milestone in its development journey. In cinemas all over Brazil, the movie The Substance, which tackles very controversial issues about aging and how the world is ageist, especially for those who work with their own image. For those who haven't seen the movie, I'll give a quick summary without spoilers so that you can basically understand the context of everything I'm presenting here. The Substance tells the story of a woman named Elizabeth Sparkle, who has a TV show and has just turned 50 years old. Her producers think she is too old to continue on air and decide to replace her. Amidst the chaos of being fired, Elizabeth discovers a substance that promises to make her younger. She definitely uses this substance, and the whole story just goes downhill. After the movie's release, many people turned their attention to Lindsay Lohan, who in 2010 appeared older than she does now in 2024. The media started saying that Lindsay Lohan used the substance to rejuvenate, just like in the movie. But what substance would that be, Bruno? Well, it's not new that there's a theory in Hollywood that celebrities use a substance called adrenochrome to avoid aging. Adrenochrome is one of the most controversial substances on the internet. What is scientifically known is that it arises after the oxidation of adrenaline released in the body. What turned adrenochrome into a conspiracy theory were the illegal tests conducted by governmental organizations in the 20th century. One of the strongest theories is that by extracting and consuming adrenochrome from the glands of a child in a state of extreme fear, the consumer would have physical benefits such as rejuvenation and altered consciousness. This theory has even become an urban legend in the United States. Some say that the children who end up disappearing around the world are indeed actually somewhere being frightened, experiencing a lot of fear, so that this substance, their adrenochrome, can be extracted and sold to various celebrities to rejuvenate in Hollywood. The point is, scientifically, adrenochrome does indeed exist, but there is no clear evidence of its benefits. But that doesn't mean there aren't people who adhere to the use of adrenochrome. So much so that the movie is basically based on this story. And we know, right, that fiction imitates reality. Now, stepping a bit away from the conspiratorial aspect of this whole story, we need to address another very important point, which is the hedonism depicted in the film, of which the protagonist, Demi Moore, was a victim during her career and personal life. It was not easy at all. I'm going to tell you a little about the challenges in the actress's life. Demi Guinness, better known as Demi Moore, was born on the 11th of November 1962 in Roswell in the U.S. state of New Mexico. During her childhood, Demi's parents separated and she went on to live with her mother and her stepfather named Dan Guinness. Her mother had narcissistic traits and was addicted to alcohol. She also attempted to take her own life more than once, and Demi, when she was 10 years old, at age, had to prevent her own mother's death more than once. These were indeed undoubtedly extremely traumatic events. As if that wasn't enough, when the girl was 15 years old, her mother sold her daughter's virginity for $500. Obviously, everything happened without Demi's consent, and she was violated by a much older man whom she did not know, so that her mother could receive that small amount of money. After that, the young girl realized she could no longer live in that house, and she simply ran away, even dropping out of school to pursue a career in Hollywood. And it's what I always say: when we hit rock The only option is to climb up. She started her career as a model, and it was around this time that her stepfather took his own life. Demi's mother then tried to reconnect with her daughter and asked her to come back home, but indeed, Demi had bigger plans for her life and moved forward. It was in the early 80s that she started dating and soon after got married with a musician named Freddie Moore and took on the identity of Demi Moore. In 1981, she starred in her first movie called Choice of Fate. After that, it was just literally success after success. She landed one film after another and even went on to star in an American soap opera. Shortly after her debut in Hollywood, Demi separated from Fred and married another very famous and highly paid actor named Bruce Willis. And in fact, the two of them had three children together. In 1985, she was part of the cast of the movie St. Elmo's Fire, and at that time, she was engaging in some wrong activities and her mental health was going downhill fast. But the film's producer believed in Demi so much that instead of firing her, they hired someone to spend 24 hours with her to prevent her from continuing to use drugs. They also paid for a rehabilitation clinic, which helped a lot to keep her from completely losing control. All of this worked out very well, because in 1990, Demi's career had a significant rise, and all the movies she made were box office hits. For me, the most iconic of all, and one that definitely marked a generation, because everyone who lived and breathed in the 90s and 2000s definitely knows this movie. And of course, you must already know that I'm talking about Ghost from the Other Side of Life. Demi played Molly, who was the protagonist of the film. And this movie, folks, was definitely one of the biggest hits in cinema. In 1996, Demi received the title of the highest paid actress in the world by earning $2.5 million to be the lead of a movie called Striptease. In 2003, when she was 40 years old, Demi began to feel the bitter taste of ageism. She was set to appear in the movie Charlie's Angels Full Throttle and would do a bikini scene. And the media very quickly started saying that she was too old to do a bikini scene. Honestly, I think that at 40 years old, a person is at the peak of their life. But for Hollywood at that time, at 40 years old, you weren't good for much anymore. It was also in the 2000s that Demi divorced Bruce Willis and started a relationship with Ashton Kutcher, which only increased the hate that the woman was receiving because he was a few years younger than her. For Hollywood, it was absurd for Ashton Kutcher, who was at the peak of his fame, to be in a relationship with a woman 15 years older than him. Ashton didn't help much either because he was quite toxic with Demi, and their relationship was like a roller coaster of ups and downs. It was during this time that she relapsed into her addiction to alcohol and illicit substances, and she was extremely in love with him. So, no matter how much harm that man did to her, she kept insisting on the mistake. At a certain point in Demi's story, she discovered that she was being cheated on by Ashton, and suddenly their relationship ended right there, which, to be honest, didn't improve the situation since shortly after, in 2012, she ended up being hospitalized after suffering an overdose. She managed to survive and realized that on that path her life had a very short expiration date and decided on her own to go to a rehabilitation clinic. When she left the clinic, the media could only talk about how Demi Moore looked old. She had just turned 50 years old, and it didn't matter her appearance or her talent. The weight of age spoke louder than all of that, and the doors of Hollywood started closing for the actress, who ended up taking increasingly smaller roles, even though she was indeed exceptionally talented enough to be a lead. Demi spoke several times about ageism in Hollywood and how she felt discarded after turning 50. And as I mentioned earlier, fiction imitates real life. And that's how the invitation came for Demi Moore to star as the lead in the 2024 film The Substance, which ended up being a perfect fit because Demi, without a doubt, was one of the women who suffered the most from ageism in Hollywood. And now she is making a film that addresses precisely this issue. And incredibly, her performance in the film turned everything around. The personal film was awarded at the Cannes Festival. She received many positive reviews for her performance and simply and effortlessly returned to the top. This decade of the 2020s is like that, a new beginning for many people. As mentioned earlier, Lindsay Lohan, who rose from the ashes and after living a completely troubled life, is also at her best moment. There are all these conspiracy theories that say that these women are using a well known and specific substance called adrenochrome. And if we search the internet, there are bizarre stories about all of this. Even Dr. Ray mentioned on a TV show here in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken, on Danilo Gentili's show about secret tunnels that exist beneath the city of Los Angeles. I honestly believe that this kind of thing really exists. But as for these women who are rising from the ashes, I think they just dusted themselves off and bounced back. But of course, I want to know your opinion. So leave me a comment here about what you think about all this. Have you ever heard about this so-called adrenochrome? Did you know what it was? Do you believe that there really is a mafia where they take several children and scare them to extract this substance and deliver it to celebrities? And if this exists, which celebrity do you think has used this substance the most? If we stop to think, many of them never age. Take Avril Lavigne, for example, when she debuted in her career, and now she's basically the same person. I think this involves a lot of money and, of course, many aesthetic treatments. But tell me what you think about all this. And that's it, folks. That was today's video. Thank you to those who stayed with me so far. If you stayed until here, don't forget to leave your like, which really helps in promoting the channel. I'll stop here. A kiss to all of you and see you in the next video.